All right, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about trade lines. I know it's a sexy word that's being thrown around. We're starting to see a lot of other YouTubers really starting to, what we can say, make this very appealing, kind of like the magic bullet, that silver bullet, the secret sauce, right? Look, the trade lines that we are about to talk about in this video are more geared around AUs, authorized users, but I want to lay a basic groundwork and a foundation for you to really understand how this works, how to apply it, and when to apply it if you are really looking to take your credit score to the next level. Because, spoiler alert, I will tell you right now, if you add trade lines at the right moment when you're rebuilding your credit, or when you're possibly in a credit repair phase, or if you're building your credit altogether because you flat out don't have any credit, it can literally boost your credit score anywhere between 100 to 150 points within a week. There's some instances where you can even see it happen within 72 hours, depending on what credit card is reporting and what trade line is reporting on your credit bureaus, or really on the credit report off of the 3 credit bureaus. So let's first break down in its most simplest basic foundation. What is a trade line? And just remember this for as long as you live, or whenever someone talks to you about trade lines. Trade lines is pretty much any form of credit or any form of loan. That's it. Whether it's a student loan, whether it's a car loan, whether it's a mortgage, whether it's a credit card, those are all considered trade lines, right? And so now we have to kind of differentiate not just the difference between different trade lines, but trade lines and primaries. Trade lines are, let's say, if you have your own credit card, right? And you wanted to add someone to your trade line, that's technically your primary right there. That's your primary line of credit. That's where that word comes from, right? Primaries. But the trade line, let's say that if you wanted to hand it off, or let's say if you wanted to help build your kids' credit because you can add them as an authorized user, they don't necessarily need access to the card, and they don't necessarily have to use the card. Obviously, you want to have control over that. And if they're not 18, then they really shouldn't be anyways. But let's say that you wanted to give them a head start. What you can do is you can add them onto your, again, trade line as an authorized user. That's an AU for them. And every positive reporting that happens on your side is going to report over on their side. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say that you've had, and really this is how it should be. Let's say that you've had a credit card for over 2 years. And the reason why you want to make sure that it's something over 2 years when you go to add someone either on a trade line, or if you're maybe looking to reach out to a family member or relative to kind of piggyback off of their credit for their trade line, you want to make sure that it's at least a 2-year or older credit card. And the reason for that is because FICO wants to be able to go back at least 2 years. That's going to have the most weight and emphasis to really help build your credit the fastest way. So let's say that you add someone on your trade line that's called Piggy Banking. What's going to happen on their side is all of the positive reporting, the on-time payments, the length that credit card, that you've had that credit card, all of that positive history is going to report over on your authorized user. So again, let's say that the authorized user is your kid, and your kid graduates from high school. Guess what? That's a heck of a graduation gift, because they're graduating with a 700 plus credit score. What that does for them on the back end is, let's say that they wanted to go ahead and finance a car. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to get some of the best rates when they go to the bank. If, let's say, they wanted to get into business and they wanted to get a business loan or open up some maybe business lines, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier because they have some of those more seasoned lines. And then on top of that, if they wanted to get into real estate investing, or if they wanted to buy their first property, open up a mortgage, well, guess what a lender is going to look at? That's right. They're going to look at the age of those trade lines. Now, all trade lines aren't created equal, and we're about to get to that here in just a second. Now, here's something that you really want to focus on when you're adding trade lines. Don't just add trade lines to add them. Look, trade lines in and of itself are very effective and they're powerful, but in my opinion, they are not a cure-all when it comes to really taking your credit to the next level. Here's why. If, let's say, you added a trade line, and that trade line was maybe what we can call a grade A trade line. Let's say that if you wanted to add a grade A trade line, that's for, let's say, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, right? Some of the more known banks. You can maybe do a tier 2 or a grade B. That's with your Barclays. Or if you, let's say, wanted to do a tier 3, or again, maybe a C type of trade line, you can do something with maybe an unsecured or really a secured credit card. Maybe you can go with something like a Synchrony Bank, right? Something that's a little easier for just about everyone to get into, but it doesn't have the same impact on your FICO. So when you're adding these trade lines, keep in mind, you want to have at least 2 to 3 trade lines added onto your, really on your credit report once you've cleaned your file. So try to have all, if not just about everything, if you have anything in collections, removed or at least disputed and coming off or even settled off of your credit report. And you want to make sure that you get these things in writing. That's the first thing. Second, if let's say those are still on there, they're still withstanding, or if you still have a high credit utilization where let's say you already have one credit card, but you're trying to add a few trade lines, then I would suggest that you try to bring some of that credit utilization down to anywhere around 10, 20%, and then add the trade lines. Now, a good recipe or a cocktail, if we're talking about drinks, when you are really setting this trade line up, is you want to have at least 2 to 3 trade lines. You want to have a seasoned trade line. Try to get it anywhere between 8 to 10 years old. You want to have a middle trade line that can be anywhere between 4 to 6, and then you can maybe have maybe a grade C trade line on there. Maybe like a My Jewelers Club type of thing, right? Where you can kind of just pay for that service and then it gets added to your credit report. Now, here are some cons, and I don't really want to say cons, but here are some things that I really want you to be aware of when you are, let's say, adding these trade lines to your credit and you're starting to, again, pick and choose what trade lines you want on your credit report, because you don't just want to add every trade line like we mentioned earlier. You want to design these the right way. Now, full disclosure, when you're doing this, keep in mind you may want to hire a professional for this. I know that right now we offer assistance just like this over on our OnlyFans, which is our private style community, where you can pick up, again, some behind the scenes tools and resources that you can apply to help build your credit, as well as help you with your financial goals. And not to mention that if you are taking the entrepreneur route, we talk quite a bit about business strategies over there. So make sure to check us out over on our OnlyFans so you can have exclusive access. Now, some of the things that you should be aware of with those trade lines is not all trade lines are created equal, meaning not all of those trade lines are going to report on your credit report. So let's say that if you have like a Barclays, or let's say that you have maybe a stronger trade line, maybe you have a sibling that puts you on their credit kind of as an authorized user, and let's say they have a Chase, those are most likely going to report, obviously because those stronger credit cards, those are going to report on your TransUnion, on your Equifax, and on your Experian. But let's say that you maybe have something that maybe you purchased online and they guarantee you $5,000, maybe $10,000 worth of a trade line. This is why I want to caution you. That may not necessarily report on all 3 credit bureaus. This is why you want to do extensive research when it comes to adding these specific items on your credit. If you are going to, let's say, take this time to add those trade lines and try to purchase a house, which is what most people do, or even try to go out and maybe buy a car at a good rate, notice that some lenders may not necessarily use, again, certain trade lines in order to pre-qualify you, because they may see those as, again, a service that you purchase. Some lenders are really smart when it comes to adding these specific trade lines. This is why, again, you want to make sure that you do your research with the trade lines that are going to report on the 3 credit bureaus and the ones that the lenders are going to see as the most promising. They really want it to feel authentic because they know that people use this method a lot to kind of loophole around the system. So if you're going to use this, and again, this is completely legal, but if you're going to do it, make sure that you do it with, again, having a nice credit file set up with at least 2 to 3 strong trade lines in there. Again, think of it kind of like a cocktail where you mix and match so that it really looks good on that profile. And then last thing, when it comes to trade lines, primaries don't come off, again, unless you close the account or something ends up happening. Trade lines do. If I'm going to give you 2 examples, if you go with some of these companies that are going to, let's say, add you on the trade line, more often than not, they're only going to last anywhere between 60 to 90 days. Now, you're probably wondering, why are you only getting 60 to 90 days on those trade lines? And the reason for that is because within that time frame, that's when you either have to go out and build that credit. So let's say your credit, again, shoots up 80, 90 points. So let's say you go from 620 to a 700. Within that time frame, that's when you should be applying for some of these primaries that, again, are not going to come off of your trade, or are not going to come off of your credit. And then this is when you also want to maybe apply for a house, maybe a mortgage, or go out there and get the best rate on a vehicle. Again, if you're financing, same thing goes with business lines of credit. This is going to be the best time if you have a trade line that's a business line of credit, to go out there and try to build your own business line of credit. So when that trade line comes off, again, assuming you paid for a service, you already have your primary that stays on your credit, okay? Now, if let's say you have a family member, or let's say that you have a sibling or a good friend that's, doing you a solid, they can keep you on their trade line forever, unless they call and they say, hey, look, I no longer want this person as an authorized user on my credit. So that's pretty much it. That is the secret sauce behind trade lines. That's for the most part how they work in its most basic foundation. If you found value in this content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Join the official community. Don't forget that anytime we're not posting on here, we are posting over on our OnlyFans, which is our private style community, as well as our podcast, which is the Insight with Irv show. So if you like what's going on over here, you'll love what we have going on over there. Once again, I appreciate you watching. Until next time, everyone, we'll see ya.